So hello all, welcome to Catch Bugs with Us session. My name is Divya Pula. I'm a software engineer at NetApp, and I'll be presenting this session today. And today we have with us volunteers, Erika Varga, Sandhya Bogula, Yu Zhao, Urvashi Jauhari, and Yashodan Chinchore. And all the volunteers are here to assist throughout the activity. So if you have any questions during the session, please use the Q&A section to ask the question, and one of the volunteers will answer that for you. And if you are experiencing any technical issues today, please reach us at ngywitquestions@netapp.com. And I apologize in advance if I'm not looking at you right at the screen. That is because I'm looking at the presentation in another screen, or the scratch came in another screen. Thank you for your understanding. And I hope you all have enjoyed the team building session before this, and you are ready to dive into some technical sessions for the day. So without further ado, let's get started with this session, okay? So what is debugging? Can you think of any problems that you have to solve in your everyday life? Take a minute, think about it, and please feel free to give your responses in the chat if you can think of any problems that you go through in your day-to-day activities, and what do you do to solve these problems. For example, consider your math homework. What do you do to solve a math problem? You know what the desired outcome is, and how do you go about solving a problem? You follow certain steps to solve it, right? And sometimes you may be able to get to the solution in the first attempt, but some other times when you try to solve the problem, we might face some couple of failures before we get the correct result, right? So what do you do when you do not see the correct result? Please give your responses in the chat if you can think of anything. How do you solve your problems? I see some responses coming in there. Okay, so what do most of the people do? They go back, verify if the steps that they had followed to solve the problem is correct, right? So this is nothing but debugging. You're already a debugger. You solve so many problems in your day-to-day life. And this is what programmers do most of the time. They spend most of their time trying to figure out the problems in their code. And the error or a bug or a problem in your computer program or a hardware is called a bug. And this process of identifying the bugs is called debugging. So before we start with this activity, because this session is all about the Scratch workshop, I would like to know your level of understanding with Scratch. So can you please all give your response in the poll? Let me launch the poll. Okay. Can you all please give your response in the poll with your level of understanding with Scratch? I'll give a couple of seconds for everybody to vote. Okay. 10 more seconds for everybody to vote. Again, I apologize for looking at the other screen and not looking at you directly, because I'm looking at the presentation. Okay, majority of you voted, so I'll go ahead and end the poll. Okay, I'm sharing the results with you. So I see that most of you have, like half of you have basic knowledge, and a couple of you have never heard of it before. And like we mentioned in our workshop description, this is for beginners. So I will go ahead and give a brief details about Scratch and how we work with Scratch. I'm sure whoever decided to join this workshop ahead of time, you must have read the know before you go document that was posted in the GitHub repository. And even if you did not read that, that's okay. I'll go over this Scratch programming once again, just so that people who are new to this will get an idea of what Scratch is and how to work with Scratch. Okay. So you can think of Scratch just like a play, right? What are some components of a play? So first comes script. Any good play needs a very well written script, right? And the scripts tell the stage or the actors on the stage to perform, like what they're supposed to do on the stage, right? And that is the same role the script plays in a Scratch game, right? So given a script, a stage and an actor can do whatever was given in the script. Okay. And the next comes the stage. Next comes the stage. So what is one thing that is always fixed, always constant in your play? The actors will enter and exit out of the stage. The backdrops keep changing, as in the scenes keep changing in the play, but the stage is always there, right? And that is the same concept applied in Scratch. The stage is always there. Your actors come and go. The backdrops, that is the scenes keep changing. And all this is done with the help of a script. And next come the actors. So you have your stage set and you have the scripts for the actors. So what are the actors here? In Scratch, the actors are nothing but sprites. They are called the sprites. They are given some scripts. Based on the script, they'll perform. And next comes the costumes. So sprites and the stage can change their appearances. So for a stage, you need a backdrop to change the scene, right? So you use a backdrop to change the appearance of a stage. And similarly for actors, you need to change the appearances of the actors in the play, right? So we use costumes for that. And this is nothing but looks. You change the looks of the actors. So let's go over a couple of Scratch blocks so that you'll get familiar with these blocks, and we'll be using this in debugging activity later in the presentation. Okay, so the first one is the motion block. Let me try to create a demo Scratch project for you right now so that, can you all see the Scratch game? Can one of the panelists answer for me, please? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so first comes the motion block. So like I said before, we have a sprite, which is nothing but an actor. That is this sprite here. So once you click on the sprite, you will be able to add code for the sprite right here. So first is the motion block. So what do you want to do? You want your sprite to move to turn 15 degrees, for example. These are all the motion blocks, and you can use all of these as scripts for your sprite or for your stage. So when do you want your sprite to turn 15 degrees, right? So for that, we'll use something called as event. So for example, now when I click the green flag, I want my sprite to turn 15 degrees. And how do you test your code? You see the green flag here and a stop button here. So whenever you start green flag, because an event is detected, the sprite has turned 15 degrees. I'll stop it and start it again, and the sprite has turned another 15 degrees, right? So that is the first block, that is motion block. Now comes the looks block. Like I told you earlier, in order to change the appearance of a sprite or a stage, you can use the looks block. So now let's go ahead and change the appearance of a sprite. Okay, so once you click on the sprite, you will be able to see the code for that sprite. That is nothing but the script and the costumes for that sprite. As of now, we have two costumes. One is where the sprite is walking, the other costume where it is running. So let me go ahead and change the costume of the sprite. Okay, so let's go to the looks block and let's select a costume, and then let's add the script here. I'll start the script again. So the sprite's costume has changed from walking to running, right? Now let's go to the next block, sounds block. Like the name suggests, the sound is nothing but you'll use that block to for any sounds that your actors or your stage has to make, your backdrop has to make, right? So let's see how to use that. Again, all that you need to do is go to the sounds block, select any of the block that you need and add it to the script. For here, for like your reference, I'll just add one sound block here and let's test if this is working, okay? I hope you all have heard that meow sound. So that is what a sounds block is. Now comes the event block. You have already seen what the event block, like I use the event block in our demo project right now. So event is nothing but these are used to start the script, right? For example, when you press a space key, you tell your script what to do on pressing a key. Or when you click on the green flag, you tell your script, you write your script to tell the actor what to do on pressing a key or on pressing a green flag. And you've already seen that. If I remove this block here, nothing happens when I press a green flag, right? So for the script to run, you need an event block. Next comes a control block. These are the workhorses of your script. Control block, as the name suggests, it controls your scripts. For example, now that you have your sprite and it is moving 15 degrees once, right? But now you want to control the movement of it. For example, you want to control the motion block. Okay, you want to control the motion block that is turning 15 degrees using this control block. So when you give this repeat 10, so now the sprite will turn 15 degrees for 10 times. Right? So you're controlling your motion block with a control block here. So there are other control blocks and you'll see some of them in our debugging activity later this session. Next comes the sensing block. So these are some fancy blocks and they usually help out your control blocks to decide on something. For example, so I have this control block here, repeat, let me delete that and use another control block. Let's say repeat until. Okay, repeat until what? So this is where you can use something called a sensing block, for example. Let's say I say, okay, you just drag and drop all the blocks from left to right. Let's say I say, oh no, wait. Let me use the key space pressed. So now what happens? What is your script telling this sprite to do? Your script is telling the sprite to turn 15 degrees until the space key is pressed, right? That is the sensing block. So I click on flag, it keeps rotating until I press space bar. So that is the sensing block. Next comes variables. So variables and operators go hand in hand. Let me show both of them together to you. Variable is nothing but, for example, you're tracking points of like how much the sprite moved or anything like that. You keep track of that in a variable. And I'll show you how to use a variable as well. And the operators control, they are useful in control blocks to make some decisions. I'll also show you that right now. Okay, let's first look at the variable. So here I'm making a variable. Let's call it points. Okay, now I'm setting, when I click the flag, initially I'm setting the variable to say 0. You will be able to see the variable here, right? So, and within the control block, we will increase the variable by something, okay? So I'm selecting the variable here. I'm changing the points here. And the operator blocks. So you click on the operator here, you'll see a list of operators here. So I'll be using, for example, say this. Now I'll remove the sensing block here. Instead, I'll be using an operator. So let's say I use my, so I'll repeat the movement until my point is, let's say 15, okay? Now I go back, the points are set to 0 initially. I click on the flag. You see the points keep increasing until 15. That is the repeat. That is controlled by the control block repeat until. So when the point is 15, the cat stops moving, right? So that is what the variable block and operator blocks are. So typically these are like the important blocks that you need to know. There are other additional fancy blocks that you can add it, but for this debugging activity, no knowledge about these 8 blocks is good enough. And I think we can go ahead and start with our debugging activity now. So, okay, in today's activity, we'll be debugging a game. This is called Feed the Dinosaur. We've already shared the Scratch link with you in the website. If not, one of our volunteers will share the link again with you in the chat. Please use that. And if you would like to follow along with us during the game, please use the Scratch link that we provided and click on the remix button at the top of your project page. Let me show you how it looks like. So it looks something like this. So when you click on the Scratch link that we give you in the chat, you'll see a remix button at the top. Click on the remix button to create a local copy of the Scratch game, and so that you can work on it and save your project. And we have also given you some useful commands and the rules of the game in the GitHub repository. So if at any point of time, if you'd like to go back and check at the useful blocks or like how the game is supposed to work, please go to the links given here. And also the link is posted in the website, so you can access it from there as well. Let's get started with this session, okay? Again, like I said before, if you would like to follow along with us, and if you would like to do this hands-on activity, you can follow along with us and do the debugging activity. Otherwise, if you are new to Scratch, or if you're new to programming, or if you do not want to do the hands-on activity right now, you are more than welcome to just sit and watch us debug the game. Just like how I shared a poll before to know your Scratch knowledge, there are many polls coming up later on in this session. So you keep watching and answer the polls, and we'll take inputs from you, and we will together debug the code and fix the issues, okay? So don't worry if you do not have a Scratch account or if you do not know how to program. So let's see how the game is supposed to work. This is nothing but desired outcome. So we are showing you how the game is supposed to work. And the game that we shared with you has some intentional bugs in it. So we'll try to find the bugs and solve it, okay? So let's first see how it is supposed to work. I have a working game here. So on pressing a right arrow key, the dino is supposed to move right. On pressing a left arrow key, it is supposed to move to left. Okay. And there are 3 sprites here: bananas, apples, and rocks. So when the dino is fed with a banana or an apple, score increases. But when it is hit by a rock, the score decreases. You can notice the score and the timer here. And there is also a timer which starts at 30 and the game ends after 30 seconds. And the goal of your game is to score maximum in this 30 seconds. So you can see the variables timer, which captures the time, and the variable score, which captures the score. Okay, so that is how the game is supposed to work. But in the Scratch project link that we have given you, the game doesn't work like that. So let's try and see what are the bugs in the game and how do we fix those. Okay, I hope you all have your Scratch project opened. It looks something like this, where you have a dino sprite, which is our main sprite. And the goal here is to feed the dino with bananas and apples and save it from rocks. Can I see some responses in the chat? If whoever is doing the hands-on activity, do you have your Scratch game open and ready to be debugged? Cool, I see some responses. Thank you. Okay, let's start with our first bug. What does the bug say? The dino is supposed to move left on pressing a left arrow key. That is one of our first rules of the game, right? But in our bugged game, the dino is not moving left when I press left. Okay, I press the right arrow key, the dyno moves right, but I try to press the left arrow key and it is not moving left. So what do you think is going wrong here? So I'll start a poll again and please give your responses in that. Okay, I've launched the polling. What do you think is going wrong here? So if you want to look at the code for the dinosaur sprite, click on the sprite and you'll be able to look at the code for that. This is for people who are new to Scratch. Okay, I see the responses coming. Wait for like a few more seconds for everybody to vote. And for people who have joined new, please click on the Scratch link that is given in the chat and remix it so that you can create a local copy of it. And just a reminder for all of you, only the presenter's video is being recorded. None of your information or none of your chats are being recorded. Okay, I hope you all have thought about it and voted. So, and most of you voted, so let me just end the polling and share results. Okay, so a lot of you think that there is a missing motion block, and that is why the dyno is not moving left on pressing the left. So how do you fix it? Like I told you in the demo project, click on the motion blocks, look for which motion block that will fix the code. So I want to change the direction, the position of the dinosaur on pressing the left arrow key. So I'll change the X coordinate of it. And how much do I change? So every time I click on the left arrow key, the dyno is supposed to go back by 40 steps. So I'm changing it to -40. Now let's play the code and see if that fixed the problem. Okay, I'm clicking the right arrow key, the dyno is moving right. Okay, I'm clicking the left arrow key and it is moving to the left. So good job, everybody. You have successfully fixed the first bug. Okay, so for anybody who is not doing this hands-on activity, so in the debugged code, you see that there is a motion block missing. And in the debugged code, we've added that motion block and it fixed the first bug. Let's go to our second bug. So the score doesn't change when feeding a banana to the dyno. So what do you think is going wrong here? And as a hint, please take a look at the code blocks in the banana sprite. So let me also open the Scratch project for you. I click on the banana sprite to look at the code inside the banana sprite. Okay, so the bug is the score is not being changed when it is fed a banana. So let's see. Okay, it is fed a banana. The score doesn't change. So what do you think is going wrong here? I'll again launch a poll. Please give your responses there. Think about it and see if the score is set properly, if we are increasing the score properly or decreasing the score properly, if we are using the proper block for for tracking the score. Okay, some of you voted. We'll give some more seconds for others to vote. Okay, give 15 more seconds for people who did not vote. Again, if you have any questions, please ask your questions in the Q&A section. And make sure you're checking at the right sprite. So there are 4 sprites in our game. Please make sure to check in banana sprite for the bugged code and see what is the bug here. Okay, I think we'll end the poll now. Okay, most of you think that there is no condition specified in the sensing block. Let's see if that is the right answer. I think yes, you are right. So we have a sensing block here, so that is not missing. But the condition specified in the sensing block is, it says if it is touching the mouse pointer, then increase the score by 2. But that is incorrect, right? So all you have to do is go and correct it. And you say, if the banana is touching the dinosaur, please change the score to 2. So we fixed the code now, and let's see if that is working now. Okay, let me start the game again. Okay, now when it is fed a banana, you see that the score is increasing by 2 every time it is, and you can see this here. Every time it is fed a banana, the score is increasing. So good job, everybody. You fixed another bug. Again, for whoever not doing the hands-on activity. So in the bugged code, we have this condition missing here in the sensing block, and we fixed it here in the debugged code. Let's see what our next block is. So now our dino is moving left and right. It is moving properly, and it is being fed bananas, and the score is being increased when it is fed bananas. But the dino's costume is not changed when it is hit by a rock. Do you remember from the working code how the dino's costume changes? Let's see that again, okay? So, okay, whenever the dino is hit by a rock, you see that the costume of the dino is being changed. But that doesn't seem to happen in our bug code. What do you think is happening here? I've launched the polling. So in the bugged code, the costume doesn't change when it is hit by the rock. What do you think is happening? Okay, we'll give some more time for people to vote. Now that we're talking about the costume of dinosaur, please click on the dinosaur sprite to look at the code blocks of the dino sprite and see what's going wrong here. Let's give a few more seconds for people to vote. I hope you all are fixing bugs with us and enjoying this. Okay, last 5 seconds for people to vote. Okay, I'll end the polling now. Okay, what do most of the people think? And you were right on the spot. Most of you think that there is no looks block, and you are right. So let's see what's happening here. So this is the code for the dino sprite, and you see that when touching the rocks, there is only a code script to play a sound, but there is no code block here to change the costume of the dino. One of the good ways to debug is look at a similar code and see if that and this are matching, right? For example, here, consider if the dino is touching the bananas or the apples, it plays a sound and changes the costume, and that is working for that. Why is it not working for the rock? So you basically compare that with this and see what is missing. And that is one of the strategies that most of the programmers use to debug the code. So now I go to the looks blocks, see what costumes are available, and I'll change the costume of the dinosaur when it is hit by a rock. And let's look at the costumes block to see what all costumes are available. So we have one costume, this, the other costume where the tail is up, the other costume, which is the costume that we would like to change to when it is being hit by a rock. And this is another costume where it changes to when it is fed an apple or a banana. So let's go back to our code and change the costume. Okay, now I changed the costume, and let's see what happens. Okay, I changed it to a wrong costume. See, that is why it is being changed to a wrong costume here when it is hit by a rock. So you go back and change it to a correct costume. Now that I changed it to a correct costume, let's see what happens. Now the rock, when the dino is hit by a rock, the costume changes but that you do not see it for a long time. That is because we did not add the block to wait, right? So now we go and add that to wait for 0.5 seconds and switch back to regular costume. Now let's see if that fixed our bug. Okay, it is hit by a rock. The costume is changed and it changes back to the regular costume after it is hit. So I hope you all are fixing this along with me. If you have any questions, please ask your questions in the Q&A section. And let's go back to our presentation to the next bug. So yeah, this is how we fix the code. In the bugged code, we do not have the looks block, and that is why it was not working as expected. And we changed the costumes in the debugged code, and we fixed the third bug. Now let's look at the fourth bug. So if you, what is one of the rules for a game? The timer should start at 30 seconds, and it should decrement until 0. And when it reaches 0, the game should end, right? Let's look at our bugged code and see what's happening. Okay. I start the game. The timer starts at 30, but then it keeps incrementing instead of decrementing. So what do you think is happening here? So because the timer is part of the backdrop, please click on the on the stage to look at the code for that backdrop. So see what is going wrong here. The timer is set to 30, and then we have all the code script here under this. Why is the timer incrementing and not decrementing? So let me launch the poll again, and please give your responses there. Okay, I see some responses coming. Timer, and to give you a hint, timer is a variable. And we have seen in the demo project how to set a variable and how to change a variable, right? Okay, few more seconds for people who did not vote. Look at the code and try to understand what's happening here. When the flag is clicked, the timer is set to 0, and the control block controls it until the timer reaches 0. So inside the code block, the timer is being changed by 1 every time. And inside the if control block, it is checking if the timer is 0, then just end the game. So I think by now all of you have taken some time to debug this and figure out what the issue is. So let me see in the poll. Okay, most of you think that the value specified in the variable block is incorrect. And all of you, I mean, most of you who voted for that got it right. But what do you think the value should be? If you think the value specified in that variable is incorrect, what do you think the value should be? Please give your responses in the chat. I'll wait for a couple of seconds and correct the code. Okay, I see some responses coming. Okay, I see a request from somebody to wait a little longer for the poll. If I am assuming you're asking me to wait a little longer for the poll, I'll take that feedback. And for the next poll, I'll wait for a little longer time. Thank you. Okay, I saw some responses in the chat, and I think you got it right. We are here, the timer variable is incrementing by 1 every time instead of decrementing. So what do you do to decrement the timer? Instead of using a +1, you do a -1. So you fix that code, go back to your code and check if it is working now. Okay, the timer started at 0 and it keeps decrementing now, right? So I think most of you have fixed that, and I hope you are following me. Let's go back to our next bug. Oh, let's see the solution for this bug first. So for whoever not following along with me. So in the debugged code, the timer value was 1. So we changed it to -1 here, and now it started decrementing instead of incrementing. Now let's look at the next code. What is our next bug? So the apples are not visible, right? If you remember the rules of the game, the dino is fed with apples and bananas, and the score increases when it is fed these fruits. But in our bugged code, all that we see is a banana. We do not see the apple. So what happened to our apple? See, there is only banana here. Where is our apple? So can you think of it and take a look at the code in the apple sprite to figure out what the issue is? So I clicked on the apple sprite here for your reference. And let me start the poll again. Okay, I keep some answers coming. I got request from someone to keep the poll open for a longer time. So I'll keep it open for a longer time. And if you have any questions, meanwhile, please ask them in Q&A section. Or if you have any comments, please give them in the chat section. Our volunteers are looking at the chat and the Q&A, and they'll answer it for you. Okay, I'm still waiting for some votes. So whoever, if you're new to Scratch, we have a know before you go document in the website. I'm so sorry if you're not able to follow it along with me. There is all documentation available in the GitHub repository that we posted in the website. Please feel free to go through that. It doesn't take much time. All that you need to know is what a script is, what a stage is, what a costume is, right? What a sprite is, and all these basic blocks that are appearing on the screen right now. Okay, I think this is enough time for the poll. I'll end the poll now and share the results. Yes, again, most of you got the answer right. And as a hint for you, I gave the bugged code here. So by looking at that, I think most of you can guess what's going wrong here. So for people who think, who have guessed that correct answer, can you please give your answers in the chat and see if you know what the right answer is to debug this? Okay. Okay. I see some responses in the chat. Thank you. Yes, I think most of you know the correct answer. So you go to the looks block, and what do you notice? When the green flag is clicked for the apple sprite, it is hide. That means when the flag is clicked, this apple is hidden from the stage, right? So instead of hide, it should be show. Okay, now I go and click my green flag and see if the apple appears. Oh yes, it did appear. So now you have fixed this bug where the apple is shown on the stage, right? Okay. For others who are not doing this hands-on, I'll share the solution. Let me stop the game. Okay. Yeah, so this is a solution. The looks block is missing. Instead of hiding the apple, you show the apple when the green flag is clicked. So now that you see the apple, but there is something else that is going wrong here. The apples are not falling from the top. The apple stays right there on the screen. What do you think is happening here? See, the apple is right here. It is not falling just like how the bananas and rocks fall. So what do you think is going wrong here? Again, click on the apple sprite, look at the code in the apple sprite, and think about it for a minute to understand to figure out what's going wrong. Meanwhile, I'll share the poll. Okay, I've shared the poll. If you have figured out what the bug is, Please give your responses there. Okay. I see some responses coming. I'll wait for some more time for everybody to answer. Okay. I'll wait for 20 more seconds for people to vote. Just look at the code and try to see what's happening, okay? When the green flag is clicked, the Apple sprite goes to X coordinate 82, Y 146, that is here. And the Y is being changed by, decremented by 7 every time. And we are checking if the position of Y is less than minus 170, we are going back to this position. And then we're checking if it is touching the dinosaur, increase the score, wait for a second, and then go back to this position. So something is missing here. What is that? So I think most of you voted. So I'll end the poll in another 10 seconds. So if somebody is on the fence of voting, please give your answer now. So I'll end the poll now and share the results. So majority of you think the value specified in the motion block is incorrect. So can you give your responses in the chat, which motion block or what the value should be in the motion block? And let's see if that is the right answer. Can I see some responses in the chat? Again, like I said, one of the good ways to debug is look at the code similar to it. So here, both the apples and banana should follow the same logic. The apple banana is working fine while the apple is not. So try to look at the code of banana, try to look at the code of apple and see what's going wrong in the apple sprite. Okay, I have some responses here. Let me share the correct solution with you. So the correct answer is there is a control block missing. And what is this control block? So the forever loop. So what's happening here? When a green flag is clicked, the apple starts at this position, it changes the position of Y, and then these control blocks here, the if blocks are being checked. But that is happening only once. But you want this to be repeated forever, right? You want the apple to fall down continuously, and you want this code logic to be repeated forever. And so in order to fix it, all that you need to do is add this control block forever. So let's go back to our bugged code, add the control block and see if that fixed the problem. So I have go to your control block section, select the forever block and just drag it here. So all the code logic that was there before, which was happening just once, we have put that entire script in a forever block so that the script is run forever. So now let's go ahead, start the game and see if that fixed the problem. Okay, now the apple is falling down continuously. But there is another problem that you might have noticed now. What's happening? What is it? How is it behaving differently from the bananas and the rocks? Can I see some responses in the chat? What do you think the next bug might? Yes, I think some of you got the right answer and I see some responses in the chat. Let's go back and see what our next bug is. So like most of you guessed, the apples are always falling in one place. Again, why do you think that is? So I'll go ahead, start another poll. Okay, so what do you think is going wrong here? Again, look at the code. Now we have fixed the bug where the apple was hidden. We have fixed the bug where it was not falling from the top. Now it is falling from the top, but it is still falling in the same place. So what blocks come to your mind when you think of the position of the sprite? the Apple sprite. I have the poll open. Keep your answers coming. I'll wait for some more time for everybody to vote. If you are not able to follow along, or if you are not able to solve the previous bugs, don't worry. I agree that programming is hard, debugging is hard, it takes time. So if you're just starting with it, please take your sweet time and try to fix one bug at a time. If you're not able to follow along with me, if you're not able to solve it at the same speed as me, do not worry. It will take time, and that is okay to take time. Okay, I'll have the poll open for another 10 seconds. Yes, I see in the chat, people are asking if this will be recorded. Yes, the session is going to be recorded, and we will share the session with you shortly after the conclusion of the event. And also the solutions for this debugging game will be posted in the GitHub repository for future reference. So I'll end the polling now. I've got most of the responses. Let me share the results. Yes, most of you think that the value specified in the X is incorrect. And I think you are all right. So let's see and look at the debugged code again. Okay, click on the Apple sprite, look at the code. So what do you see? The X coordinate of the Apple sprite is always 82, right? So in a stage, your X coordinate is the position of your sprite on the horizontal axis, and the Y coordinate is the position of your sprite on the vertical axis. So on your horizontal axis, the position is always 82. And so is why the banana is always falling from that 82 pixel position, right? So in order to fix that, we've already seen how operators work, right? So we will use one of those operators, and that is nothing but picking a random number from the operator. From the numbers. So what is your random number range? So that will be your length of your stage, right? So in a Scratch project, the total length is 440, I believe. So we will go from minus 222 to plus 222. Or let's look at the banana sprite and see what it is. Yeah, it is minus 223 to 222. So go back to your Apple sprite and fix the code everywhere. So select the random X coordinate from minus 222, plus 222. And similar to the above blocks, do that for all the X coordinates. Now go ahead and start playing the game again. Okay, now you see that the apples are falling from random places. So you have successfully fixed this bug. For people who are new to programming or new to Scratch, I know this bug is little complicated to get, and that is okay if you are not able to figure it out. So let's go to the last bug of our session today and see what the correct solution for that is. Okay, now that you've fixed all the bugs, I mean, there are still 2 more bugs hidden apart from these top 8 bugs, but that is for you to figure it out after the session, and you will be given the solution. So you can always recheck if your solution is correct. So let's come back to this bug now. So after you fixed everything, once the timer reaches 0, it doesn't show game over, just like how it showed in the working code. Let me get back to that. So I'll start the game. Let's wait for 30 seconds. See what happens on the game over. Meanwhile, I'll play the game. If you look at the working code properly, you will be able to figure out the other 2 hidden bugs. Just read through the game rules and look at your bugged code and see what is going wrong. Okay, so now what happens on a game over? We see this game over, I mean, the stage change to game over, right? But we do not see the same thing in our bugged project. So you go back, go to your backdrop and see what's going wrong here. The code for this is in the backdrop. So click on the stage and you'll see the backdrops here. Once you click on the stage, you'll see the code for the stage here. And I'll launch the poll and let's see what you think the answer is. Okay, I see some rapid answers coming. Keep the votes coming. Let's keep the poll open for another 40 seconds. Meanwhile, try to look at the code and see what's happening here. So there is this control block here. So it repeats until the timer is less than 0. Every time the timer is decremented by 1. And what is happening here when the timer reaches 0? What's happening right here? Can you figure out what the bug is? Okay, last 15 seconds for people who would like to vote. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now and share results with you. Most of you think the looks block is missing, and that is the right answer. Can you please give responses in your chat, which looks block is missing here? And because we are towards the end of a session, we have like 6 more minutes. So I'll just go ahead and give you the solution for this. So when you click on the stage sprite, you'll look at the backdrops for that stage. So this is our regular backdrop, which we are seeing right now. The other backdrop is this, where it displays game over. So that is the looks block that is missing. So I'll go ahead and change the looks block for the stage. And okay, switch backdrop to. Okay, let's go to backdrops and verify. This is our backdrop 1, which is Jurassic, and the other one is Jurassic 2. And I've changed the code to change the look from Jurassic to Jurassic 2. And let's see if it works now. Again, we'll have to wait for 30 seconds to see if this is working. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, because we are towards the end of the session, if we cannot get to your questions now, we'll email the responses to you. If you have any other questions after the session, please email us at YWIT questions. Okay, now the timer reaches 0 and we see the game over. And you have successfully fixed all the bugs that are planned for this debugging activity. Like I said, there are 2 more bugs hidden in this game. Please feel free to continue the challenge. Take this challenge at home and try to work on it. You can add more bugs to it and more intentional bugs to it, and you can challenge your friends to debug it. If you're new to Scratch or new to programming, you can always look at this recording and try to debug the code again. So this is the bug 8 solution. And again, thank you all for joining. So now we'll see if you have any questions to answer. Okay, I see most of the questions are already answered. Again, thank you all for joining. So apart from this game, for people who are like very familiar with Scratch, there is another challenging game for you that we have already put in the GitHub repository. You can find the GitHub repository from the website, or if you have taken it from the Scratch now. And also do that take-home activity if you like the debugging. There are like another 10 bugs in that challenge, and I hope you will be able to fix that all. I hope you have learned something today from this session. And if you have more questions, please feel free to email us at ngywitquestions@netapp.com, and please tag the workshop name in it so that we know the question is for us, and we'll answer it for you in the email. And watch out for a post-event survey email. Please give your feedback. We appreciate your feedback, and we'll come back with more interesting workshops for you next year based on the feedback. And again, thank you all so much for joining. So I'll keep the session open for another 3 minutes if any of you have any questions. All the documents for this workshop are made available in the GitHub repository. The solutions will be made available shortly after the conclusion of the session. So by the end of the day today, by the time you're done with your all YWIT workshops, you'll have the solutions for this workshop ready, and you can always go and look at them. For people who are new to Scratch, I strongly suggest you to download Scratch or start working on the Scratch projects if you would like to learn programming or how to program. And if you have successfully done all the debugging activity today, kudos to you, congratulations. And if you were not able to do it, do not worry. Like I said before, programming is hard and it takes some time, and it is okay if you take some time. Once again, there is a take-home project in the that we have posted in the GitHub repository. It is called Maze Game. So basically, you have a sprite, and the sprite is supposed to walk through a maze and collect some keys. It is a really interesting project. So if you would like this debugging activity, please do that take-home activity, and you can challenge your friends to debug that as well. Please take a look at the chat. And if you have any questions, please email us. And yeah, last 1 minute, if you have any questions. I hope you all had fun. Good luck with all your other sessions. I hope you'll enjoy all the other sessions planned for you today.